And we're back at the Giro di Stil studio here at Fortezza da Basso during the Pitti Uomo 90 Fair. In just a few moments, the first ever international Giro di Stil bicycle race will take place. And now here I have a special guest to talk about menswear and cycling. I welcome Simon Crompton, author and the man behind the very successful website Permanent Style.
Thank you, Konrad. Lovely to be here.
Good to have you here. How's Pitti been for you so far?
It's been good. It's been good. It's been very, very hectic, but it's been good. I'm actually just thinking earlier, actually, I could probably do with a bicycle to get around on, because I seem to be running all the way from one place to another.
You should, you should. I understand you had an event last night. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Thank you, yes. We run a series of events called the Symposiums, which has been going on for the last 2 years, where we gather together the best craftsmen in the world of one particular type. So last night it was the best young craftsmen in the best young tailors in the world, and we had 6 guys from Hong Kong, Milan, London, Seoul come together and tell their stories about how they became tailors, why they're passionate about it, and how they're going to drive the future of bespoke tailoring over the next 20 years. It was really exciting.
And these are guys that you put together?
Yeah, yeah. So these are my favorite tailors, basically, from around the world, most of whom I know personally, and the guys who I think are both great craftsmen, but also great designers. You know, people who used to be architects or people who really get inspired by design and different things, and they want to bring that together in tailoring, which is a wonderful thing for the future of the industry.
Yeah, yeah. Any new revelations from the discussions last night? Any new thoughts that you care to enlighten us with?
I think one thing that struck me was all of the 6 guys came from very different backgrounds. Some of them were born into a tailoring family where they're just following their father. Some people trained as accountants and then just left their careers entirely to go and become tailors. But they all had kind of one thing in common, in that they all had some kind of story when they were young that inspired them. They bought a suit or someone made them a suit. They went to a wedding. Suddenly, they loved clothing. But whereas I think some people would react to that by saying, I want to buy that suit or I want to design that suit, some kind of craft or kind of geeky person, a part of their personality took over, and actually they thought, I want to learn how to make that suit. I want to make it myself. You know, I don't just want to buy it. I want to be involved with it and do it with my hands. And they all had that in common.
Oh, that's very interesting. Okay, this week for us is about riding a bike, and it's riding a bike with style. I understand you're quite the bike rider yourself.
Yeah, I've always been a very keen cyclist. Yeah, my father was a marathon runner, and I used to go running a lot when I was a kid. Then, when I was a teenager, I injured my knee and I couldn't really do running anymore, so I took up cycling, and that's really what I've done ever since. I've commuted to work in London every day for the past 13 years, and I go out riding at the weekend and race and travel with my bike. It's fantastic. It's a way of life.
So it's you're a racer as well? Do you partake in?
Yeah. I mostly like sportives and kind of longer distance things and riding with friends. But you know, we love going on trips to France and to Spain and to Italy and kind of doing races up the mountains. That's our favorite thing to do.
So what does cycling mean for you personally? What does it give you in your life?
I think it's a tremendous sense of freedom. I mean, I find at the weekend, if I've had a weekend without cycling, on a Monday morning, somebody else is getting on there, going to the train station, waiting for a train. I get on my bike and just start rolling down the hill, and that sense of freedom is just amazing. You know, suddenly I just feel this great sense of elation, like I could go anywhere, I can do anything. I'm under my own speed. I don't need an engine. This is just a really efficient way of traveling by myself, and that's just amazing. Okay,
so being an advocate for good menswear, I assume that you're really into the equipment when it comes to your bicycling as well.
Yeah, it's quite sad, really. A lot of my friends are really into the kind of the equipment of cycling. They're geeks and they love the bikes and they want the kind of the graphite this, and they want to get the latest gear and always worried about how heavy their bike is. For me, I don't really care about the bike. I care about the clothing. That's kind of what I've always been into. So that's what I care about. And I want the best clothing. I want technical innovations, or I find it really interesting how there's a crossover between like men's shoes and racing shoes. So there's a lot of kind of technology used in cycling shoes, but actually a lot of the techniques are similar to dress shoes.
Oh,
so
really?
yeah, so for example, like the top cycling shoemakers still use plastic lasts in the same way that wooden lasts are used by the dress shoemakers.
Okay.
The top cyclists basically have their shoes made bespoke for them because they have a personal last made, usually with a plastic mold, which then the kind of shoe is made for. And they actually use leather a lot as well. You know, things like goat leather and kangaroo leather, also used in football boots as well, are actually incredible for cycling because they're really lightweight. They expand really nicely to your foot, give you a lot of kind of natural stretch. And that's the kind of thing that a lot of synthetic fabrics can't do.
So aesthetically, is there a similarity to how you dress here today and how you dress when you're out riding your cycle?
Yeah, probably, I guess. You know, I'm not wearing a shirt and tie, but I kind of, you know, I've always worn all black. I never wear anything but black when I'm cycling. I don't know why there's always been an obsession that my bike is black, my clothing has always been black, everything else is black. I've kind of resisted the urge of getting like a pinstripes lycra or something like that. But even actually you get more expression, I think, in the clothing with commuting wear. You know, there's a lot of interesting brands now doing commuting clothing on a bike. And that's kind of where you get a really interesting crossover between form and function, where you've got to be stylish, but actually it needs to be really good for movement. You need really good protection against the wind and the rain. So a lot of brands are doing that. People like Rafa are doing that really well. People like Hermes are now doing cycling range, which is similar, kind of trying to get that. And I think particularly the really interesting point is probably the crossover between technical function and luxury. Because to get something that looks luxurious, feels luxurious, but also is very technically savvy is very, very difficult. You know, technical clothes often look quite cheap, really. You know, so that's good.
I meant to ask you, being an observer of menswear and a cyclist, are we there yet? Do we have the functional, elegant-looking clothes, or...?
It's hard because I think you see every brand that goes through product development, they feel that at some point they have to make some kind of sacrifice in the elegance, which is probably what they're driving for more in order to get that. But there's loads of different ways you can do it really nicely. Hermes at the moment we're doing stuff with really interesting technical jerseys that do that quite well. I was just seeing Serafin leather jackets who do amazing things with leather that's washed in a water-resistant coating first and then dried out for about 2 weeks. And by doing that, rather than spraying the leather afterwards, you retain the feeling of the leather, but it's incredibly water-resistant. It's fantastic.
How many bikes do you own?
Only 2 these days.
Okay.
I have a house and children, so I have some responsibilities. So just the 2 bikes. I have a commuting bike and a racing bike. And I used to have more.
How many Blazers do you own?
A lot more than 2.
Simon Crompton, thank you so much for coming here talking about biking and menswear.
Konrad.
Good luck.
Thank you very much. Thank you.